Episode 217 of The Horror Guys begins again.
Us again. I'm Kevin.
I'm Brian.
We're going to talk about some horror movies, aren't we?
4 movies in a short, as always.
All right. What do we got this week?
Well, we've got M3GAN.
M3GAN?
M3GAN. Okay.
M3GAN.
They were being clever there, weren't they?
M3GAN. Yeah, they substituted a 3 for the E.
Yeah, we'll start out with M3GAN, a modern take on a killer robot doll. Then we'll look into a haunted mirror with Oculus. People raved over this at the time and sort of slipped by our radar back then. Then we'll try to figure out what's going on with Disquiet, a mystery in a hospital. And then we'll talk to some bugs with Phenomena. This week, also, over at HorrorBulletin.com, we'll look at 2 bonus films. The Deadly Bees from 1966. Believe it or not, in the 1970s, there was this killer bee craze. Everybody said, the killer bees are coming from Africa. They're going to kill us all.
They're going to take over America, and they never really did, like we were led to believe.
Hello, yeah. Murder hornets.
But before then, there was a different kind of deadly bee.
1966. It was the first of the bee genre.
And that was interesting because...
Not to be confused with bee films.
It wasn't so much a natural, disaster, nature going to kill us. It was kind of a murder mystery.
Yeah.
A mystery. Yeah. There's beekeepers doing bad things.
Oh, they should have totally called it the War of the Beekeepers.
War of the Beekeepers, yeah.
And then we'll continue on with Friday the 13th, Part 3 from 1982.
Which was in
3D.
Coming at you.
Yeah. All right, so that's what we're talking about this week. And back in time, in the Wayback Machine, 4 years ago on episode number 11, we watched Don't Torture a Duckling from 1972.
That was one weird flick.
I think this was Kevin's first introduction to Lucio Fulci.
And it was weird.
It was very weird, yes. So Italian, I think it was subtitled. I don't remember if it was dubbed, but it's definitely weird.
But it was good.
And then we also watched The Possession of Hannah Grace, 2018.
And
this is the one with the priest who was on trial for killing someone during his exorcism.
And I thought this one was mighty forgettable. I had to look back and remind myself what it was.
Okay. I thought it was pretty decent. But
it didn't leave an impression on me.
You are not a fan of exorcist films.
No, not so much.
All right, probably the last time we're going to mention it, we have a free book available. The Horror Guy's Guide to the Halloween Films is available now on our web store, www.brianshell.com/b/Halloween, or go to horrorguysshop.com and just look for Halloween. It's in there. Totally free as an ebook, and very, very inexpensive as a paperback.
And it tells you all about the Halloween timeline.
Yeah, it's a short little thing that we put together as a sort of a demo of what the Horror Guys books are all about.
Yeah.
And again, this week coming up, or maybe the week after, very soon now, the Horror Guys Guide to the Films of Peter Cushing will be available in paperback, ebook, at all the usual places.
He was a cool guy. Did you know that before he was Grand Moff Tarkin, he did a whole lot of horror movies?
No.
And other movies.
Before he did horror movies, he did a whole lot of other things.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, he was not always a horror guy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, much like Boris Karloff, he did many years of working before he got into horror movies.
Mm-hmm.
Can you name any of them?
Known for. No, not really. No.
All right, so go over to horrorguysshop.com, do a search for Halloween, and pick up your free ebook. Or there's a link there to take you to the paperback at various places. Of course, we've also got the horror films of Vincent Price, horror films of Roger Corman, Shock Theater, Son of Shock, all the Hammer horror films, The Silent Age, and a lot of other good stuff. HorrorGuysShop.com.
That's a lot of good books. I want them all.
You got them all.
Oh, yeah.
None of the number one fan.
Yes, I am.
All right. Well, anyway, our first movie this week is 2023's newish film, M3GAN. Spelled, if you're Googling it, M3GAN. If you type in the other one, I don't know what you get. Directed by Gerard Johnstone. Written by Akilah Cooper and James Wan. James Wan, he did all the Conjuring films.
Mm-hmm.
Is this good, do we say?
Is this good?
Did we like this?
I don't like the
You don't care
films.
for his movies.
I don't care for the Conjuring films. No.
All right.
No.
Allison Williams, Violet McGraw, and Ronnie Cheng. 1 hour, 42 minutes. Trailer in the show notes. Spoiler free. What happens?
Well, this looks good and it's entertaining. It's a cautionary tale of AI getting out of control, science fiction, but it's maybe not that many years away from where we are. And you can see where things are going, and it gives a decent payoff that moves fast.
Yeah. Didn't Chucky just come out last year with exactly the same description almost?
There was a robotic Chucky.
The newest Chucky movie,
They
yes.
rebooted Chucky as an AI,
As a
as
little
a robot.
uh-huh. Yeah.
That was interesting. And here's M3GAN as another.
This one
Now
is
they- now
probably a
they
little
need to
more
have-
realistic and based in what we can do today.
Yeah, a little more based in science. The Chucky still was a little supernatural seeming.
Was he?
Beyond sciencey.
Boy, that newest one was so forgettable. I don't really remember. I thought he was just pure crazy robot.
Yeah, but this did seem more realistic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, good Chucky has always got the supernatural element to it.
No, it didn't really have supernatural, but yeah,
Not this one, no.
this seemed more believable, where it was an AI learning from itself and getting out of control, snowballing out of control.
Okay, and before we get into the description, I have heard that there is a standard version and a newer uncut version that came out after we watched this, like days after.
With more gore, more violence, and so forth.
So the unrated version may be better than that, or maybe it won't be, I don't know. But it will be slightly different from what we're describing.
We'll have to see.
We see a commercial about a girl whose dog died. What? That's starting out happy.
Yeah.
It's an ad for robotic toys that look something like a Super Furby. Yeah, they're little round heads. They'd be fine in a Pokemon game.
Yeah, that's what they look like, a pokey character. If you remember Furbies, a little ball of fur with a mouth and eyes that talk.
But this has some AI in it, and it'll ask intelligent questions and stuff.
And it's linked to our smart device, to our phone or iPad.
Yeah. Well, Katie has one of them in the car as they drive up the side of the mountain. Her mother whines about Katie's excessive screen time. Katie's Aunt Gemma works at the company that makes these toys, and they start sliding around on the icy road and can't see anything, so they stop where they are, because their father's an idiot. And then a snow truck rams them and kills both parents. Credits roll.
Ouch.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Why do these stories always start out with orphans, you know?
Here we go.
Well, at the Funky Toy Company, Funki, we see lots of cool things. Gemma is there now testing new funky toys. She wants to show her new design to the boss, but it's not quite ready yet. A rubbery-looking face arrives, and they put it on the humanoid robot she's built. The boss, David, comes in, and he's not happy. She spent way too much on this secret project. She calls her new toy, here we go, Model 3 Generative Android, or M3GAN. M3GAN. It's clearly not ready for prime time as its head explodes in a fiery mess in front of David.
Not a good demonstration.
He's not impressed.
No.
Gemma packs up her failed project and gets a notification from the hospital. She drives to see a badly injured Katie, who is now going to live with her after the accident. After she's healed up, they go home to Gemma's place, and Gemma complains about neighbor Celia's dog. Gemma's not used to having a kid in the house, and things are very awkward for a while. Katie cries, and Gemma has no idea what to do about that. She's in her 20s, single, has no plans to have kids.
And suddenly she has a
house full of collectibles and breakables and doesn't want a kid.
It's not a kid-oriented house. So, yeah.
Therapist Lydia comes by to talk to Katie. Katie doesn't have any toys, so they open up some of Gemma's rare, expensive collectibles to play with. And that doesn't go especially well. Adjustments are going to have to be made on both sides. Katie asks about screen time, and Gemma doesn't really care about that.
Well, that's a plus anyway.
What's my limit on screen time?
Oh, you don't have one?
What?
Why would you have one? Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Katie asks about this big robot thing that Gemma calls Bruce. It's like a big cyber something or other that doesn't have a face. Gemma shows her how it works, and Katie is fascinated.
That's Chekhov's robot, by the way. I saw that.
It certainly looked like it.
I saw that come. I'm like, okay, we're
going to see that.
There's going to be a robot battle in this, isn't there?
You remember the big loader suit from Aliens?
Mm-hmm. Along those lines. Yeah,
we're going to see that again, aren't we?
Yeah.
Well, this thing doesn't have much of a mind of its own, but it takes the user's movements and commands from linked gloves. Gemma is inspired to keep working on the M3GAN toy with Cole and Tess, her co-workers. They eventually call in David for another demonstration. They bring in Katie and introduce her to M3GAN, who now has a face and recognizes Katie as her primary user. This is going to be a long-term test. M3GAN can walk, talk, and draw pictures. David is impressed and wants to move on with production. M3GAN can learn and bond with its assigned child. Katie is thrilled with her new friend, but Tess is somewhat concerned that M3GAN won't replace parents. M3GAN knows how to learn about things, including death, which creeps out all the adults.
Yeah, she gets carried away. They give her full access to the internet, and she's curious and learning, and she goes nuts, looking up all this stuff, and starts asking, "What's death? What happens to you after you die?" And all these awkward questions, and like, no, don't talk to the kids about that, But she knows everything because she, they taught her to learn, but not a lot of guidance or restrictions, which I mentioned a cautionary tale. It's, you got to watch it with AI.
The dog next door attacks M3GAN and Katie. M3GAN takes note of Celia's attitude and clearly doesn't like her. Gemma wants the dog put down, but she could fix the hole in her fence. The dog keeps getting over on her property, but she won't fix the hole in her fence.
Yeah.
Well, that night, M3GAN lures the dog through the hole in the fence and does something bad. The next morning, Dewey the dog is missing.
And I saw that coming too, because I don't know the exact wording, but M3GAN's primary command: watch after her, protect her from all physical and emotional harm. Like, well, this dog is threatening her. The neighbor, she doesn't like this neighbor. She doesn't like these, various people that are mean to her. M3GAN's going to see that. That's her primary program. Okay, I will protect child. Yikes!
It's one of those laws of robotics, isn't it?
Yeah, without the safety measures. Yeah.
David gives his presentation to the board and investors. Katie starts to cry in the demonstration, and M3GAN consoles her in front of the whole group and sings to her. She wasn't programmed to do that, but it works. There's a guy there, Kurt, who's a corporate spy, and he copies all the M3GAN files without David knowing. And that doesn't really go anywhere, but I suspect if there's a M3GAN 2, we'll see more of that.
Well, the implication was that, whatever happens, if they shut down the project or, if M3GAN goes bad, the plans are out there for other companies that they're going to start developing it, and they're going to start doing it too.
Sequel.
It's a sequel, or the implication that, oh, this is the end of the world.
Meanwhile, Katie clearly likes M3GAN more than Gemma. Katie refuses to talk to the therapist, and Lydia talks about attachment theory and that Katie shouldn't be getting so attached to a toy.
But she seems like so much more than a toy.
Also, M3GAN stops turning off when she's told to shut down. No. Gemma enrolls Katie in some kind of outdoor school because there are lots of other kids to learn from. She thinks she's spending too much time alone. Katie gets paired up with Brandon, a bigger kid with attitude issues. When Brandon starts picking on Katie, M3GAN gets involved.
And again, it's I'm going to protect my primary.
Brandon steals M3GAN, but she pulls his ear off. This is the part where you run, she warns. Oh my.
Yeah.
And he does run, and gets run over by a car.
We should not spoil it further.
Oh, poo.
Because it's so new. It's so new, and there's so many people that haven't seen it.
Okay, no more of that.
Yeah.
She goes off the rails from there. Bad things have happened.
And something that was interesting, I was reading that people in robotics were praising that point for realism. When, this is the part where you want to run, and she does chase Brandon. We mentioned that already. She drops on all fours. And that's a real thing with robotics, that where robotics are now, that the bipeds can't run very well. And that the quadruped robots are much more likely to be able to run. And that's why she dropped all fours, because she can't run as a biped.
Yeah, they had some of those four-legged robot things at the Super Bowl, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
So they're at least that good.
And they've got some bipedals that are kind of, they're still working on it. But I saw, somebody in robotics, praising that. Like, oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, well, the violence here, again, we watched the cut-up version. The violence always cuts out before we see anything graphic or gory. There's an uncut version that has been released that's supposed to have more gore in it. It was originally shot as an R-rated movie and was cleaned up for general release. I haven't really heard any reviews of the uncut version, but it is out now.
I haven't either. Yeah.
Well, the problem here is that M3GAN gets too evil too quickly, and we don't really get a lot of build-up.
It moves fast.
She starts out as the perfect toy, but after the bit with Brandon, she just sort of goes full psycho. It could have stood to be another 20 minutes longer as we see her slowly
I would have
devolve.
enjoyed that, yeah.
Still, it looks good. M3GAN was part actress, part CGI, and part puppet, and the combination works pretty well. She's not quite human looking, but she's trying to be.
Mm-hmm.
The obvious comparison here would be Chucky in the Child's Play series, but this one really goes a whole different way than those films. It was kind of good, but I look forward to seeing the uncut version eventually.
Yeah, overall I liked it.
Overall, I liked it too. I can't say there's anything in there that we haven't seen before, but it was entertaining and well done.
It was assembled nicely, yeah.
Yeah. Standard parts put together in a...
interesting manner.
Yeah. And M3GAN, although there was an artificial intelligence involved, did not have 6 fingers on each hand.
No.
Unlike most AI creations.
AI artwork, yeah.
All right, then we take us to a brand new movie, another one called Disquiet, 2023. Written and directed by Michael Winnick, stars Jonathan Rhys-Meyers, Rochelle Goulding, and Elise Levesque. Hour and 25 minutes. You haven't seen this one? There's a trailer in the show notes. Spoiler-free judgment. This one comes from the publisher. This is one of those publisher notifications. Brace yourself for a twisted, spine-tingling thriller with Disquiet, now streaming on Redbox. Jonathan Rhys-Meyers stars as a patient who wakes to discover he is trapped in an abandoned hospital by mysterious and sinister forces that have no intentions of letting him leave. Don't miss out on this must-see movie. Stream Disquiet instantly on Redbox On Demand today. Rated R from Paramount Pictures. Okay.
Lots of violence, lots of R. Yes, this is worthy of its R rating.
Yeah, this one pulls you along, wondering what's going on and trying to figure it out along with the main character. I mean, about halfway through, we kind of figured out what it probably was, but we weren't really sure.
Mm-hmm.
It's well filmed, well acted, it looks good, and was overall entertaining.
Yeah.
We did both like it.
Yeah, going along, it's not obvious and clear what's going on, but you kind of have a sense of, well, maybe it's this or maybe it's that, or but it unfolds gradually. Like we said, with the main guy.
Yeah, in the past
we figure it out along with him.
In the past 2 years or so, we've seen maybe 4 or 5 things with Jonathan Rhys-Meyers in it. He seems to be going pretty heavy into the horror genre.
Mm-hmm.
And in my opinion, I think he's been kind of 50-50. He's been in some good ones, and he's been in a couple of stinkers.
This is a good one.
Yeah, I think I like this better than most. Yeah.
It was good.
And the last one we saw him in was the one with John Voight.
Oh, the mystery game one. I can't remember what it was called.
A Deadly Game.
A Deadly Game.
Yes. We like that one, too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anyway, what happens?
Well,
without going too far with it.
Yeah, we can't go too far in this one. It's so new. We hear Sam tell us that life is all about choices. He says that he's married to Sarah, and they have a baby on the way. And then Sam has a really bad car accident, and they take him to the hospital. Credits roll. He wakes up in a hospital bed, alone in a hospital room attached to a monitor.
And immediately at this point, we had theories.
Mm-hmm. He presses the call button, but no one comes. He looks over at the old man in the next bed, and he's suddenly vanished. And then the old man jumps him, and they have a fight.
He's back.
Yeah. Sam runs out into the hallway, running for help, but no one comes. They both really fight hard for a couple of hospital patients. Eventually, Sam stabs the old man a dozen or so times with a scalpel, and when he looks again, the body is gone.
There's no blood trail.
Yeah. He goes back to the room, finds the old man back in his bed as if nothing had happened.
Did he hallucinate it?
Yeah. Well, he checks his phone and sees that the line has been disconnected. He quickly puts on his clothes, and when the nurse finally shows up, there's no other patient in the room with Sam now.
It's a private room.
Yeah. He goes down to the lobby and is again pursued by the crazy man. Well, meanwhile, Monica is in the hospital for a boob job. They put her under the anesthetic and she hallucinates the doctor and nurse as people with messed up faces. She wakes up surrounded by 3 bloody women wrapped in bandages. Sam rushes in when she screams, and he sees them too. And then they run away together. "We need to get out of here," Sam warns. There are no nurses or doctors in this hospital. Seems to be not really many people at all except for these weirdos. It's a zombie apocalypse, isn't it? Monica asks. That's one theory. Well, they spot Carter handcuffed to a gurney. He says that a cop shot him in the back, but that he's okay. And then they spot the 3 bloody mean girls in the hallway. Maybe they are zombies. They kind of act zombie-like.
Kind of.
Yeah. And another man with a messed up face warns Sam that he can't go anywhere. He gets knocked out, dreams of Sarah telling him he's going to grow into a crazy old man with wild hair and long fingernails. She nags at him about texting while driving, and that's how he got into the accident in the first place.
And that's probably a good place to stop.
It is. Yeah.
What is going on?
Yeah, it goes on. They this ragtag, it seems like a team of survivors kind of team up and
Yeah, there's 1 or 2 more people that they've made along
try
the
to
way.
figure
yeah.
out what the heck is going on.
Well, Kevin got really upset with the tube stuck in Sam's mouth during the hospital scene. That's not how anything works. That's not how you do things.
Well, yeah, but then it makes sense.
Not really.
Well, it does.
Well, it wasn't a breathing tube, or a feeding tube would have gone up his nose. This tube down his mouth just had no purpose.
Yeah, that's not
He
how
was
you do it.
also skeptical about the nurse leaving a full bottle of oxycodone right there next to his bedside table. But it makes a little more sense afterwards if you go back and think about it. But at the time, it kind of stands out.
Yeah.
It looks good. The cinematography is really cool. The whole story is a kind of what is going on kind of mystery, so the plot doesn't make much sense as it unfolds. It's mostly just one weird encounter after another, but eventually you develop a theory that turns out to probably be mostly correct.
Mm-hmm. Mostly.
Yeah. All right. Well, overall, it was good. We enjoyed it.
Yeah. Big
There's limits to what we can say without spoiling things.
Big thumbs up. Yeah.
And then it's time for our short film this week.
An especially awesome short
What are
film.
you wearing?
I'm wearing leopard heels.
Leopard Heels from 2023. Directed by Chris Turner, written by Chris Turner and Mark Prime, stars Celeste Wong, Alina Allison, and Eric Colvin. It's 11.5-ish minutes, and there's a link in the show notes where you can go watch it on YouTube. What happens?
Well, Renee is interviewing for a new job, and everything there just seems a little off. She looks at the Employee of the Month photos on the wall, and they all seem to be of the same guy.
He's very good at his job.
Patty is the receptionist, and Renee notices that she's wearing really tall high heels in a leopard print. Eventually, Renee heads up to her interview, and she finds Mr. Gregory, who will be doing the interview. He's very misogynistic. But no, that's not what he meant.
No, I'm just joking.
Yeah,
That's
just
not what I
joking,
mean.
As he stares at her and does very misogynistic things again. And, well, maybe he's just an old perv. Maybe he's harmless.
And you noticed the plaque on his desk.
It was the plaque on the door.
On the door. What did it say?
The acronym of his title. It's got his name and then his title. The starting letters are all capitalized. It spells out parasite.
He's a parasite,
his
all
title.
right.
Yeah. Well, it's an uncomfortable situation, and this one is a little bit exaggerated, but it's not that unrealistic, at least in the beginning. It soon devolves into something that's much more interesting and weird, and some jobs really do want you to go above and beyond, don't they? It's brightly lit and well shot and well acted and really, really good. Got to check this one out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Leopard Heels.
Mm-hmm.
Which takes us to our next movie, 1985's Phenomena, also known as Creepers, written and directed by Dario Argento. You know what? In 4 years, I think this is the first movie of his we've done.
Yeah.
I'm sure there'll be more.
Yeah.
Stars Jennifer Connelly, Donald Pleasance, and Daria Nicolodi. Hour and 56 minutes, trailer in the show notes.
And
we were about an hour into this, and Kevin says, you know what? She reminds me of a young Jennifer Connelly.
It wasn't an hour, was it? But
it was close.
It was a ways into it. Well, I hadn't paid attention to the credits and hadn't read the IMDb or knew anything about it. And yeah, I was like, gosh, she looks young Jennifer Connelly.
She was 15 here, and it was her first major movie.
This
she
was
did
before
Labyrinth a little bit later, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Spoiler free?
Spoil us. Don't spoil us.
Don't spoil us. Superb direction, an interesting story, and skillful acting save a movie that's actually kind of long, slow, and talky. But
Well, it sounds great except for the bad part.
It's really good except for the not good part. It's kind of a contradiction, but it's weird with lots of creepy moments, especially if bugs freak you out. And all in all, we give it a thumbs up.
Yeah, it was good. It is a little talky.
A little bit, but Dario Sargento, he's such a good Argento. He's such a good director.
This was filmed in English also. It's an Italian movie, obviously, Dario Argento. It was filmed in English, but it still sounds sort of dubbed. I think that they did a lot of post-processing talking there.
I did. Yeah, I think they did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although it was done in English, their mouths moved properly.
Spoil it for us.
A bus stops in the mountains and then drives off, leaving one girl behind. She walks to a nearby house and yells for help. She goes inside, and we see something pulling at chains inside the house. It breaks free.
Uh-oh.
The off-screen person attacks her with chains and scissors. She runs outside into the mountainous terrain, where she's finally stabbed to death. The person then cuts off her head and throws it in the river before dragging the body off. Oops. Later, we see a monkey walking around outside. Professor McGregor is an insect scientist, an entomologist, who helps solve cases for the police. The monkey is his pet, Inga.
Technically, it's an ape. It's a chimpanzee.
Chimpanzee.
Yes.
Well,
chimpanzees are apes. Planet of the Apes.
Tails, right?
That.
Tails make the difference?
Usually. Almost always. Almost always monkeys have the tails and apes do not. There's a couple exceptions, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The hairy little person is his pet, Inga. He is wheelchair bound, and she's his nurse who fetches things for him. He explains how certain insects appear on dead bodies at certain stages and intervals, and these reveal a lot about when a body has died. He has the dead girl's head, and he can look at bugs to determine when she died. 8 months and 15 days ago.
And that's a real science.
That's oddly precise, though.
That's very precise that he does, but that's a real science of looking at, decomposition and insects and stuff.
Well, Inspector Geiger is there, and he puts it in line with the other girls who've gone missing. Yes, there's a serial killer in the area. Jennifer Corvino arrives in what they call the Swiss Transylvania, and she's the daughter of a famous actor. There's a bee in the car, and Jennifer defends it, saying, "Insects never hurt me, I love them." She tames the bee, and she's going to the International School for Girls. And the story here is that she's the daughter of a famous actor. And there's posters around that we never really get to see. Originally, they wanted to have
Al
Pacino play her famous movie star father as himself. Mm-hmm. And he said no, he didn't want to have anything to do with children that weren't his. But I guess they were going to have Al Pacino posters on the wall, and she was like, Jennifer Pacino or something like that. It was actually going to be him.
Or a different name, that would have been a hoot.
Also in the 80s, I don't think they probably could have afforded him, but that's another story. Mm-hmm. Well, the headmistress of she meets her roommate Sophie, and the headmistress, who blames Jennifer for her plane being late. It's all her fault.
Right. Yeah.
She's very unfriendly. Sophie is a big fan of Jennifer's father, the famous actor. That night, Jennifer has a nightmare about a girl being chased into an old church. Then she dreams about a long hallway with many doors, but in real life, she's sleepwalking on the roof of the school. Oops.
Yeah, not good.
In her dream, she sees the girl who was being chased, but the girl is killed, and the real Jennifer falls off the roof. She's okay, but she walks in front of a car and gets knocked down. The two boys in the car pick her up and dump her in the woods a few miles away.
Classy.
That nice Italian hospitality.
Mm-hmm.
Jennifer, this isn't Italian.
Switzerland
is where it takes place, yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Italian director.
The Swiss Transylvania.
Yes.
Yes.
Jennifer sits in the trees until Inga the chimp comes in and leads her to Professor McGregor, who cleans her up and examines her. She doesn't have any memory of her dream or how she got there, and the two talk about insects and about her natural affinity for bugs. The insect in his hand wants to mate with Jennifer, but it's not the mating season. That's strange, he thinks.
And this was kind of refreshing, seeing Donald Pleasance play a good guy.
He does sometimes.
I mean, he's eccentric with all the bugs, but, he's, a decent person who's friendly and smart and sane.
Not at all deranged.
Yeah. Well, he often plays somebody who's a little whacked.
Yeah. Even when he's a good character, he's a little off.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The next day, the headmistress insists that she get an EEG. The doctor at the mental hospital thinks this is the first step towards schizophrenia, or another personality trying to emerge. You get hit by a car last night, and today they diagnose you with crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Jennifer gets angry and walks out. She calls her father to complain, but he's out of town for 3 days. That night, Sophie notices someone outside shining a spotlight on her window. She puts on one of Jennifer's shirts and sneaks out. It's Sophie's boyfriend, but the boyfriend is really interested in hearing more about Jennifer. He can't stay long, so Sophie is left outside, alone, to be chased by the killer, who stabs her with what looks like a spear. Jennifer goes outside and walks through the woods. A firefly comes to her, and she follows it. She picks up a glove and goes back inside. There are maggots on the glove, and they tell her about the murder. She can talk to the bugs.
She's
the Dr. Do-Tiny.
Doolittle of bugs. Yeah.
Not Doolittle, even smaller.
Mm-hmm.
The headmistress thinks Jennifer's crazy. Jennifer goes to McGregor about the maggots and tells him everything, even about the firefly leading her to the maggots. He believes that insects have a low-key paranormal powers and telepathy. The headmistress and the other students learn all about this by reading Jennifer's diary. Now they really think she's crazy, and everyone starts tormenting her. But she summons a huge swarm of insects that crawl all over the building, and everyone stops laughing. They all laughed at me till I did this.
Mm-hmm.
The headmistress quickly comes to the conclusion that Jennifer is demonic and calls the doctor from the mental hospital to come and get her. She sneaks out and goes to the professor's house again, and he gives her a sarcophagus beetle and says it will lead the way to the dead bodies. All she has to do is listen to it. Yeah, I believe this part.
Here's a little friend for you.
He's like a bloodhound who will lead you to the nearest dead bodies.
And it does.
Yeah. She and the bug get on a bus out toward the mountains, because this dead body may be 50 miles away, it looks like.
But the bug has a really good sense of smell.
The bug that's in this box has a really good smell. Well, they get off at exactly the place where the girl in the beginning went. She walks to the abandoned house and goes inside. She runs into a real estate agent who accuses her of coming there to steal. Inspector Geiger arrives and talks to the real estate agent, and he wants answers. Back at the professor's house, Inga the chimp gets locked outside and can't get back in. McGregor hears her yelling outside and goes downstairs to let the ape in. Chimp, not
Chimpanzee.
ape.
Well, chimps are apes.
Okay, not a monkey then.
Yeah, that's what I said.
This is hard.
That's what I said earlier.
This is hard.
Yeah. Chimpanzees are apes. Yeah.
Well, we see someone turn the elevator off halfway down the stairs. The killer then stabs the old doctor with his spear. Inga jumps on top of the killer's car as they drive away, but the loyal companion gets thrown off. Jennifer and a crowd watches as the police carry out the professor's dead body. Inspector Geiger talks to the man who runs the mental hospital, and he wants to know about someone who broke in, not someone who escaped. Who would break into a mental hospital? Well, Jennifer talks to her father's agent to ask for money, but he's not very helpful. Inga the chimp is still loose and finds a straight razor in the garbage can.
Because you find straight razors in the garbage can all the time.
Yeah, you do, on the side of the road. Brand new, straight, and shiny-looking straight razor.
Mm-hmm.
Jennifer goes to the bank to pick up money from her father's agent, but it doesn't arrive. Instead, she meets Frau Bruckner. Listen for a horse to whinny in the background there. Who says she will buy a ticket back to America for her. Jennifer goes home with Bruckner for the night, as her flight doesn't leave until morning. Miss Bruckner has all the mirrors in the house covered, as her young son is sick and doesn't want to see his own reflection. She says it's better if Jennifer doesn't see him. Bruckner also insists that she take a sleeping pill, and she's very, very bossy. Jennifer goes into the bathroom and finds those maggots in there on the soap. The death maggots.
And at first I thought, well, maybe she was hallucinating those. And no, they're really there. And there's a reason death maggots are in the house.
She remembers the professor's words about that species, that they live exclusively off human remains.
Mm-hmm.
Bruckner whacks her over the head when she comes out the bathroom, and the inspector drives up in his car, but Bruckner closes steel shutters and locks the door to keep Jennifer inside. Bruckner talks to the inspector outside. She tells how she was attacked 15 years ago in the mental hospital. Okay, so Bruckner is talking to Geiger outside.
Mm-hmm.
Jennifer wakes up and hears a man's voice screaming somewhere in the house. She tries to pull the phone up by the cord but loses it completely. Meanwhile, Jennifer's father's agent arrives by plane. He had nothing to do with Bruckner being there.
No.
Jennifer finds a hole in the floor and crawls through it, a tunnel, to find the telephone that fell down there. She's grabbed by Inspector Geiger, who is chained to the wall. He was outside a minute ago, and now suddenly he's inside, chained to the wall, and he's clearly been tortured for days.
And
it's the same actor.
And this point was very confusing for us.
Yes, I don't know what happened there.
Yeah.
Unless she was unconscious in bed for days, but why would that be?
No, it doesn't. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Well, she falls into a big gloopy pit full of water, maggots, and decomposing corpses.
That's a yucky scene.
Yeah, it is. Bruckner comes in to gloat, and Geiger beats her to death. Oops. Geiger gets out of the pit and runs down a hallway to find a little... Jennifer gets out of the pit and runs down the hallway to find a little boy crying in the corner.
And boy, did she look clean and dry quickly.
Oh, yeah.
After wallowing around in a pit of mud and maggots and corpse parts, and she gets up and runs away. And she's a little damp at first. And then she just, sweet and clean again.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the little boy turns him around, and he really is pretty badly deformed. She runs outside of the boat dock and starts a boat motor, but the little boy chases after her with a spear. She screams in terror at the monstrous little boy, and swarms of insects rain down on him. He tries to fight them off, but they completely cover him. They eat him alive until he falls overboard. The boat then catches fire, and she has to jump overboard. Soon the entire lake is on fire, and she has to swim a long ways underwater to escape the flames. Except the little boy is down there too, and he's not dead. He surfaces and burns, but she escapes. Morris, the agent, drives by at exactly the right time to pick Jennifer up, which is quite a coincidence, really.
Yeah, it is.
But Bruckner comes out of nowhere and beheads him. Oh, that came out of nowhere.
And she's not dead yet.
She admits that she killed Geiger and McGregor, and she's just about to behead Jennifer as well, until she's stabbed in the back by Inga the chimp.
Yay, Inga.
Revenge.
Yes.
This was Dario Argento's favorite of his own films. Wow. He made a lot of them, and this was his favorite.
Okay.
It was also Jennifer Connelly's first starring role. Labyrinth came out the following year. The soundtrack is especially good. It's very atmospheric and visual, although the plot is slow and maybe a little too talky. Overall, it's good, but I think it's probably a little slow for a modern audience. But it's very weird, though, which definitely makes it worth it.
Lots of weird touches here and there.
Yeah. And speaking of weird, we got one more for you.
2013's Oculus.
I see you, Oculus.
Directed and written by Mike Flanagan. Also written by Jeff Howard and Jeff Seidman. Stars Karen Gillan, Brenton Thwaites, and Katie Sackhoff. An hour and 44 minutes, and there's a trailer in the show notes.
And Mike Flanagan did this before all his long miniseries. The House on Haunted Hill. No. The Haunting of Hill House.
Haunting of Hill House, yes.
The Haunting of Bly Manor. Midnight Mass. Hush. And many others have come since this.
Lots of good stuff.
This put him on the map.
Mm-hmm.
Spoiler free. This was an interesting one, switching back and forth smoothly between what already happened to the main characters in history when they were kids and what's happening to them now in the present. There's lots of cool visuals, and the story pulls you along, wondering if the good guys will win in the end. She has a plan.
And this is 10 years old, but we really need to blow the spoiler horn on this.
Honk.
Yeah, because this is one you should go into cold.
Okay.
And not, know as little about this ahead of time and know that it's really good and you should see it.
Well, we can talk the beginning parts.
Yeah.
Spoilers don't come for a while.
Yeah. Well, there's a little girl with blood on her face watches a man carry a gun around the house. Kaylee and her brother Tim try to get out of the house. The little boy sees a ghostly woman in the room with them. Tim describes the dream to Dr. Graham. He's never fired a gun in his dream before. Well, he's 21 and he's decreed to be well, and he's discharged from the mental hospital.
So clearly something happened when he was young. He got incarcerated, and now he's healed, cured, and free.
Yep. Kaylee goes to an auction and sees a mirror go up for sale. Very ornate, fancy, beautiful mirror. Afterwards, she goes to pick up Tim from the mental hospital. She says she's got the mirror, at least for a few days. She wants to keep their promise and kill it. She takes him to a motel room at first and gets annoyed that he seems to have forgotten what happened. Still, she needs his help.
Okay, so I'm going to pause right here.
Yeah.
The entire movie hinges on her plan to deal with this mirror thing.
Yeah.
What kind of coincidence is it that he would get out at exactly the same time that this mirror wound up at auction?
I don't think it's a coincidence. The mirror was doing it. That's how powerful it is. The mirror's pulling the strings. I don't think it was a coincidence. I think it was the mirror doing it.
Okay. All right. Because that was the part I didn't really buy, that she'd been planning this for like 10 or 12 years, and it all just happens right now today.
The mirror wants the ones that got away.
All right. Well, what go on.
We flash back to them as children moving into a new house. We see the same mirror being carried into the new place. Their mother, Marie, thinks the mirror is too ugly for their father, Alan's office, but it's his office and he wants it. That night, he sees a weird woman with glowing eyes in the room, but only for a second. Well, in the present, Kaylee wakes up in the middle of the night and looks at the creepy mirror. She's attacked by her father. No, just a nightmare. Her fiancé, Michael, doesn't understand what the deal is, and she doesn't really try to explain it to him. Just bear with me for a day or two more, she says. She works for the auction house where the mirror was being sold, and it's got a break in one corner, so she uses the excuse she's going to put in a repair order on the cracked mirror, and she uses that as an excuse to get it out of the warehouse, and she really just wants to take it home. And when she's alone with it, she says, "You must be hungry." So, in the past, Marie notices that all the houseplants are dying. Alan starts hearing voices from the mirror. Kaylee sees a weird woman with her father. In the present, Kaylee takes Tim to their parents' former home. She inherited it, and the home is just sitting there empty, and they carry the mirror inside and set it up. She's got cameras and video equipment ready to set up and watch the thing. And she's hooked up a boat anchor on a timer that will swing down and destroy the mirror as a kill switch. The timer has to be manually reset every 30 minutes, or by default, it will swing down and smash the mirror.
Which doesn't make any real sense, but pretty soon we get to see why this is all completely logical.
And why that makes sense, yeah. Well, Kaylee turns on the cameras and explains her plan to the camera and to Tim. She seems very prepared, as if she's been getting ready for this for years. She tells how the mirror is responsible for at least 45 deaths since the earliest time when she could trace it back, and apparently including their parents. She relates the history of the owners of the mirror, all of whom died badly, and her explanation clearly upsets Tim, because he is not on board with thinking any of this is real now, because they've cured him.
And that's a good place to stop. So it's killed 45 people in its long history. Why wouldn't somebody just break the mirror? Huh?
Yeah, why?
Well, that's a very big part of the story.
And it's a very cool part of the story.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, it's it's a haunted mirror. We got that part.
Yeah.
And you've seen haunted mirrors before in movies, probably dozens of times. This one's pretty good, though, because it's a smart haunted mirror.
Oh, is it? Yeah.
There's lots of little visual things going on that you have to be paying attention to in order to catch. The woman in the mirror appears in certain places and stuff also happens. Things move on their own. We started out seeing creepy, weird stuff, but after a while, Tim's justifications and explanations for why everything was happening make that all sort of doubtful. The casting of the two young kids was really good. They really do look like younger versions of Karen Gillan and Brendan Thwaites.
Yeah, that was a good pairing.
Yeah. The cinematography, with the past and present swapping back and forth, often multiple times in the same scene, really works.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very good.
This was a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we've got The Deadly Bees from 1966 and Friday the 13th Part 3.
And you can read about those on the website
Yes,
and the
you
newsletter
can.
and all that. Those are our bonus movies.
Bonus.
Friday the 13th Part 3 was funny because it was in 3D. And boy, did
it was obviously
did they
3D,
milk
yeah.
it. Yeah, with stuff coming out at the screen. And yeah, they really...
Everybody knows Jason Voorhees, the murderer in the Friday the 13th movies, wears a hockey mask.
And this is the first time he does.
He got it about 10 minutes before the end of part 3. So, yeah, that's a kind of a late addition.
And then it became iconic from there.
It sure did.
He liked it. He liked that hockey mask. I never taken that off.
He didn't become immortal until the hockey mask went on.
That's right.
All right, yeah, anyway, you can go read the horrorbulletin.com to read those 2 extra reviews and sign up for the mailing list so you get, believe it or not, 7 movies each week in your mailbox.
Wow.
4 movies in a short that we talk about, plus 2 more usually.
We watch a lot of movies.
We watch too darn many movies.
No, not too many.
All right, we'll talk to you next week. I'm Brian.
And I'm Kevin.
See you.
See ya.